Hey folks, welcome back to Adaba Africa. This is Chris coming at you yet again for quite a busy day. It was supposed to be kind of a calm day for me. I was excited to talk to Renee Kruger earlier about Heritage Day and Afrikaans culture in particular. That was the plan for today, but we did know in advance that the arraignment for the two accused domestic terrorists, political assassins, murderers of young Brendan Horner, were to be arraigned today at the courthouse in Senekal in the northern part of the Free State. So I did anticipate something had happening and hoping a lot of people showed up, but man, did they ever show up. And I did a video this morning and I called out before the fake news had a chance to lie about it. And I pointed out that it was breaking news. We could get things wrong, but based on what we've heard so far, a lot of what is coming out of News 24 and other outlets, the few that are covering it, are actually false. So I reached out to the conscious Caracal because I thought I saw him in a video, but I asked him if he was there, and actually I think I caught the edge of his head as he walked by somebody's mobile phone. So folks, very kind of Ernst van Zyl to join us this afternoon with an eyewitness account of what happened there in Senekal. So with that, I'm going to bring him on the channel here real quick. Ernst, goeienaand.
Goeienaand, Chris. Firstly, I think there's no doubt that I was there today by judging by my complexion. I've been awake since 3 a.m. this morning. Very long trip from Pretoria down there to Senekal in the Free State. About 4 hours drive, but it was really worth it. I mean, we stopped halfway at a little bit of a truck stop. And we saw so many convoys and people coming by there. And I think that was the first indication to me that this is going to be a big day. I saw my good friend there, Talon Bezuidenhout, as well. You can find him on Twitter. Caught him there at the same petrol station. And then also drove all the way there to Senekal. And when we got there, even before we got into town, you could already feel the energy. You could already feel there's something going on. And when we got there, we were one of the earlier guys, but people were already starting to gather. And then also, as the day progressed, just more and more cars started pouring into that town. I mean, this is a very small town. By US standards, I don't think it even registers on the map. So you have to imagine the parking nightmare that a lot of these people had to experience. But cars were packing that town, and it was really a sight to behold. So I was very fortunate to be able to join a team from AfriForum to drive down there to have a presence there and show our solidarity and support.
Well, no, it was awesome. I actually did catch from AfriForum's news segment that they have. I did see the video with Ernst Ritz, who was talking about what was going on there. I got most of it. He was talking about coming down there. Yeah, I saw photographs people took. I saw the tractors, the John Deeres, and all the things. Hashtag Tsele must fall. I love that. That was awesome. I'm going to start that as a new sign, maybe put it up as a banner on my channel here. I'm surprised I didn't think of that one because I've come up with so many clever hashtags, but not that one. But listen, aside from one incident with the truck, I didn't really see anything that should get anyone's attention. Of course, that's not how it's going to be portrayed in the mainstream media.
So that's the second half of the day. So let's cover the first half first. When we got there, we all moved to a separate location, just a few meters from the courthouse that had been registered and through all the admin in terms of the legal protest. And then people started slowly pouring in. There was a beautiful hill there, very nice scenery. And then firstly, I think the thing that struck me the most first was just the type of people that were there, the people that I encountered, people from all over. I mean, from Cape Town, from Chenine, from Pretoria, from Bloemfontein, from Durban, from everywhere, from across the country. I mean, for your American listeners, I think if they listen to your channel, I think they have a good idea of how big South Africa is. So when you're driving from Cape Town to Senekal, I mean, I think that's about a 10-hour, 11-hour drive.
It's huge.
So a very big trek. So a lot of props to the Oaks that made that big trek up there. I think a lot of balls shown there, if I can use that type of language. I think it was very impressive, and I definitely let the people know that I talked to. If they told me, "Oh, I'm from this little town in the Western Cape," I'm like, "Sure, man. Thank you very much for coming all this way." I mean, it's not even on a weekend; it's on a Tuesday. It's a lot of people had to take off work, and us Afrikaners, we take our work and our jobs very seriously. So to take off a day for something like this, it's a big thing. And then also not just to take a day off to go somewhere in the city, to take a day off and then to drive 4, 5 hours, 10 hours, 11 hours for some people. That's a very big gesture, and that just shows how strongly people felt about it. So then we got there, people started organizing. And then the speeches started, some very, very good speeches. The pastors that did their sermons there were very good. I think the messages that they conveyed were excellent. Absolutely no semblance of racialism or any idea, any type of like distasteful rhetoric. Very professional, very respectful, and people were keeping their eye on the ball. People were really focusing at the problem at hand and not trying to capitalize on the situation. I myself was very moved by a lot of the speeches there. And then also, I think something that takes a lot of credit is the fact that there was no distasteful signs. There were no signs with profanity on them. There were no signs that were clearly driving a hateful agenda. All the signs were very tasteful. All the signs were on point in regards to their messaging, their slogans. I mean, even you noticed the Chele must fall brilliance of that slogan. So very big props to everyone that made their signs. There was a lot of handmade signs and a lot of organization there. So also, again, just a very big props to those people. And then a final thought on that is the fact that also the people there that I encountered, there was absolutely no form of hate or any form of disdain. It wasn't a movement built on resentment or a movement built on we need to burn everything down, we need to destroy everything. The people that I talked to were people that really were concerned citizens, people that were come from farming communities, people that really felt strongly about this incident. And I didn't encounter personally a single person that I found their commentary distasteful or disrespectful or populist in a capitalizing on or exploiting a tragedy kind of way. So I was just very impressed by that. So big props to anyone listening that was there today. You did yourselves very proud.
No, that's a great comment, Ernst, by Donkey for that. I have to say that when we first got word of this a few days ago that there would be a Rain Tuesday, I started urging my viewers to rock up and be in Senekal if you had any possibility. Obviously, I can't make it. I mean, I can't, unless I get a Nigerian to fake a COVID test, I can't fly to South Africa. So, 72 hours. Anyway, but so no, I encourage people to go, but I also encourage them. I said, listen, you got to be proper. This is about just, for me, I think what needed to be done, and it was done today, is that the South African community, and I don't want to say Afrikaners because obviously Afrikaners and Boers, but specifically South Africans who have revulsion at this nonsense need to show up in a presence, in a force, not to cause any trouble, not to demonstrate, just to be present, to show the revulsion about this. And I saw lots of video about that, and there's other things we could talk about. But to me, I think that was critically important today to take a stand in that way, because when we see gender-based violence, we see the ANC Women's League show up and things like that. But it's time that someone put their foot down. And Ernst, I haven't done many videos specifically on farm murders. I don't like to do individual farm murders because people tune it out. They play nonsense. I've done a few about the topic in general, and I've talked endlessly about it, especially in my streams. But when I found about Brendan's murder, this one, as a farmer myself, at that age, it hit me kind of hard. And I was really just pissed off. And like so many South Africans, I was hot full of all this nonsense. And I felt it was necessary to do a video to talk about Brendan, what little information we had. And the reason I prompted to do it, Ernst, was because there was no coverage. No coverage, no media coverage whatsoever. After several hours, the next morning, later in the day, nothing I could find internationally online. I found 2 posts that were from South African alternative media. And I went with those with the facts as I knew them, but I turned the video into more of the bigger picture of the situation in the country. And that's why I did the video. And I'm so glad that people went out. But I saw a lot of good behavior. I haven't seen a lot of those videos, but the videos I saw in photographs, things look fine. It's the action where the videos are coming in. And that's, of course, what the press is now talking about.
No, absolutely, Chris. I think when you look at this situation and this event today, you have to look at it as a whole. I mean, this was really, I was there, I was on the ground talking to the people. The people that I talked to are upstanding individuals, people that really cared about the cause, people that weren't there, like I say, to exploit the tragedy. And then at the same time, I think we also need to acknowledge the fact that when you look at the organizations there present, I mean, AfriForum was there with a team. I was part of it. Also, a lot of the farming unions or the farming organizations were also there. They did an excellent job with the organization. And there was an active when I was there during the speeches and when people were starting to gather, there was an active effort to keep people calm, keep people reasonable, keep people organized, and it really succeeded for the most part. There were some individuals that tried to hijack the event, or people that tried to rile up the folks there, but overall really impressed with the turnout. And yeah, I mean, it's not an exaggeration to say there were thousands of people. I mean, you see the photographs of the gathering, and there's at least a few thousand there, but then you also need to take into account that in the next door towns there were also gatherings, and there were people standing in line to get into that town. And I'm not talking about people standing individually, people standing in their cars. There was a line of cars into that town, and it wasn't just cars, there were trucks, there were tractors, there were people from all over. And don't let people fool you with propaganda that it's just a bunch of Boers that got together. I saw people from all types of backgrounds. I saw people from different cultures. I saw English South Africans there. I saw Black South Africans there. I saw people from every type of cultural or racial background there. And it was very heartwarming to see. People were definitely feeling the energy, and people recognized the problem. So I genuinely discourage people from sharing any type of propaganda that it was only this Afrikaner or Boer cause or gathering. It was people from all over, and that was very heartwarming to see. Seeing that's the typical fake news narrative that you'll see is just a bunch of Boer nationalists, whatever they're going to call us. But that can't be farther from the truth. The people that were there were people that were concerned about the cause, people that see the pressing need for solutions, and people that can see, even non-farmers, people that aren't farmers or from a farming community, that still see the problem, and people that are able to empathize with this family of, unfortunately, this young man that was murdered. It was very heartwarming to see, and I want people to take that message from this, is that don't be distracted by the things that the mainstream media focus on or choose to focus on, but rather hear it straight from the horse's mouth, hear it from the people that were there. It's a completely different picture.
Well, I don't even need to be there to see this picture, because one of the first things I noticed in an early video I got is several Black South Africans, not standing in a group like, but mixed throughout the crowd. I saw a couple of colors, but I saw many Black South Africans there, and that's the first thing jumped out at me. Now, I have to say about this is that is this the catalyst? Is the torture and murder, is the political murder, the domestic terrorism murder of Brendan Horner the catalyst? Let me before I answer that, answer, let me say, and I don't know that you or I can answer that question. It's a just a rhetorical question. Is this the catalyst? For 26 years, I've talked about this issue, most of it behind closed doors in classified environments, but only recently being freed from my service, I can speak about it now. So now I speak about it publicly, about this threat. And of course, it predates that. I mean, we saw it in Rhodesia, we saw it in Namibia, we saw it in South Africa before 1994. But after 26 years of this nonsense, the removal of the commandos, the underfunding of SAPs, the diversion of SAPs, the all the other things trying to disarm South African, well, legal South Africans, not criminals. After all of this, when the lockdown was lifted, when it was lowered, back several weeks back now, we suddenly started seeing, once again, attacks on farms, and they're becoming more vicious and more of them and more prevalent and more frequent. And now we've seen so many farm attacks and so many murders just since the lockdown's been lifted, and people are getting angry about it. But it really, I think, what did it start with the biker rally? And then after the biker rally, we had the car rally. Then we had the Witkois day. And all of that, I think, is building. And we haven't reached a crescendo. But the question is the horrific thing that happened to Brendan Horner going to be the catalyst that finally wakes up people in South Africa of all backgrounds? I hope that it is.
Well, maybe just a final thought on the type of vibe that was there. I mean, one of the pastors did a message in Setswana for other people in the community to be able to understand exactly why we are here. And he was absolutely fluent. I mean, he made me jealous that and a bit ashamed that my Setswana isn't better. But yeah, that aside, I do think that there's something going on here. I mean, I was on RSG today and also on Pretoria FM to talk about the event. And one of the questions there was, Why did this murder specifically, why was this the catalyst? Why did it inspire this type of movement? And I don't think that it is this murder specifically. I think, and you have such a beautiful saying in English, we don't really have an equivalent in Afrikaans, but the straw that breaks the camel's back. Mm-hmm. And I do think this was a case of that. I don't think it was this murder specifically. If this murder had happened in isolation, I don't think it would have had nearly the same type of response. But it is that final straw that broke the camel's back, where we've had some horrific murders this year of farmers. We've had a pregnant woman killed. We've had a prominent activist killed. We've had absolutely horrific murders this year, and I think definitely people were starting to take notice. And I sent this, and this is my more firm message that I sent out earlier this week, is that if you encounter someone that still denies and downplays and belittles the crisis of farm murders in South Africa, the time has passed that they are doing it out of ignorance. I mean, there was a time in the past where I would have brushed it off as these people just don't know the facts, they don't know what's going on, they're just ignorant. But at this point, if you are still actively downplaying the absolute crisis and this brutality and denying that it's happening, I mean, something that our president did less than 2 years ago, then you are doing it out of malice. There's that rule of thumb: don't attribute to malice what can be attributed to ignorance. But in this case, if you are still denying it, you are doing it out of malice, and I can say that with absolute confidence. And I was going
to say, let me interrupt for just a second. I would say that not only out of malice, but you are complicit in what is happening, if that's your position. I'm sorry, go ahead, Ernst.
No, absolutely right, Chris. And it's that type of message that I want to send out. If you encounter these types of people on social media in real life that still say, oh, it's not that bad, it's a bunch of propaganda, it's people lying, you need to treat them accordingly. You need to treat them that they are doing it out of malice, because at this point, you can't be doing it out of ignorance anymore. The information is out there. You can easily find the facts. And I'm not talking about you have to go into the dark alleys of the internet to find it. You can watch channels like yours, and it's out there. And I mean, you're not a conspiracy theorist. You're not a fringe character.
No.
You pretty much, in my opinion, cover it very objectively and make it very accessible to people that don't know about what's happening in South Africa. And there are a lot of channels like yours popping up all across the internet. And when I'm talking about channels like yours, I'm talking about international channels, not just South Africans talking about the issue, but international people talking about the issue. So at this point, I really don't think there's any excuse anymore for people to say, oh, I just didn't know. How could I see this coming? Just didn't see the full picture. All the information is out there. You can't deny it anymore. If you're still denying it, I'm going to doubt your moral fiber. And I think people need to treat these types of people accordingly.
I agree. In fact, if you're downplaying this, or if you want to play the moral equivalency, the vile game of moral equivalency, then you're not sincere. You're not genuine. And I'm just so sick of hearing this nonsense. You know, it's like when I was doing videos several months ago talking about farm murders or talking about violence in South Africa. Oh, so you don't care about black South Africans. Do you watch my channel? I've talked endlessly about the student in UCT who was murdered by a postal worker, about the 8-month pregnant black woman stabbed multiple times in the stomach and hung from a post outside Pretoria, about the 26-year-old Indian woman near Veenen that you're talking about whose throat was slit, 4 months pregnant. What kind of savage, disgusting, vile, subhuman, poor excuses for humanity are people like this? They're thugs, and it's politically motivated. I'm tired of hearing the nonsense about, well, they're just regular crimes. They're not regular crimes. These are political crimes, as I have been calling it for months, domestic terrorism. Now, yes, some of them may be people trying to steal things, or they may be a revenge thing, but many of these, and in this case specifically, I see no evidence so far, and I'll correct myself if I'm wrong, but I know I'm not wrong on this. I was an intelligence analyst, and I was a counterintelligence agent. It's what I did for 4 decades. I'm telling you that the information that's available publicly, there's no question whatsoever that this is politically motivated.
Just to quickly interrupt you there, Chris, I did find it very amusing that when I sent you AfriForum statement today, where we're starting to label it now farm terror or terrorism, or in Afrikaans plaasterreur, you told me welcome to the club, saying this is something you've been saying for years. So I just found that very amusing.
Well, thanks, Dennis, for sharing that. I didn't want to say that because I was kind of felt like I was crowing about it, but because it's not something to crow about. But you know, it's people belittling this. But I saw it today in Ronaldo Jo's his WhatsApp group. Someone, I'm not going to say who it was. I don't remember who it was. Someone came on and said, "Yeah,
doesn't matter.
You have to remember that this is because farmers maltreat their workers and underpay them." Excuse me. No, 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 no. That's utter nonsense. And I had a very eloquent response, which I can't think of right now. But my point is that you can't possibly tie those things together. So that gives people carte blanche to murder. A 21-year-old, born free, not even a farm owner. He's a farm manager. He's working for someone else. And so he can be tortured and murdered because of your fictional narrative. Have you seen some of the nonsense that's coming off of Twitter from some of these idiots in South Africa talking about gleeful that Brendan Horner was murdered? Have you seen some of that? And I don't see any action.
I've seen some of it. And it's, Chris, what you're describing there is pretty much the equivalent of when there's a rape victim. You're pretty much just saying, oh, but she wore a short skirt. She was dressed too pretty.
It's her fault.
She shouldn't have dressed so prettily or so suggestively. I mean, this is the type of thing, and Adams Roots pointed out so perfectly tonight when he was on Newsroom Africa. He said it's the same type of rhetoric when it gets to gender-based violence. The type of excuses you hear where you say, well, we hear about this woman that was beaten by her husband, but we need to ask the question of maybe she burned her food. I heard a rumor that she burns his food. Maybe there's something there. It's that type of excuse making, and people don't see it. They don't see the double standard. And for me, but that's why I said it's so heartwarming to see people from all backgrounds there today, because it doesn't take a lot for you to realize that this is an issue, and for you to care about this issue doesn't mean that you disregard other issues. I mean, AfriForum is not a solely farm murders based organization. We're a civil rights organization. We talk about a myriad of issues. I mean, we pressured the government to build a school in Nkandla, a black community. We assisted the Barulong tribe when they were pretty much dethroned by the ANC. We assist people when their civil rights are violated. And farm murders is a blatant violation of people's civil rights and rights.
Well, it's the ultimate human rights violation. The ultimate human right is the right to life.
And that's why it used to boggle my mind, but today not as much. It used to boggle my mind seeing people downplay the issue, being so cold towards it, making all the, I mean, people see, you mentioned it now, people seem desperate to find excuses for it. Oh, but these people hire foreigners and these foreigners kill them, or these people treat their workers badly. That's why it's happening. And back in the day, I used to be boggled by it, but now I realize that the people that are still doing it don't have compassion for these farmers. They don't have any empathy for them. They are driving a political agenda. They have made up their minds. They don't want to assist these farmers. If you were to give them the option of, we're not going to make this public, privately ask them, with your consent, can we give assistance to these farmers? I doubt they would, even if it were to remain private. I do think these people are doing it out of malice. And then you're seeing this type of rhetoric, and you're seeing these types of excuses, and then you have to start asking the question, but why are so many people being driven to making these excuses for these heinous crimes? And then you have to start asking the question, but what type of role does the mainstream media play in this? And I think the role is becoming abundantly clear. I mean, we saw the fake news today around this event, where News 24 reported that the farmers fired shots on the police, which was blatantly false. But that suits the narrative. That suits their narrative perfectly. These violent, thuggish, backwards farmers. That's absolutely what they would do. And I think the mainstream media is definitely complicit in it. I mean, if you look at the data, and AfriForum is compiling a lot of data on this, we will be releasing it maybe next year in terms of media coverage of farm murders, and you can find it in Adams Roots' book, Kill the Boer, as well. The South African media just doesn't report it. There is a blatant slant in regards to how they cover farm murders. If there's, for example, a farm worker that was killed by a farmer, I mean, there's that case of the coffin case. That gets immense coverage. That it gets covered for weeks, for months. But if in this case, I mean, you experienced it today for yourself with this Brendan Horner murder, the mainstream media was absolutely silent on it. But as soon as they got their angle, as soon as there was unrest at the gathering, they got their angle, and then they sprang into gear, and you could see the cogs working in the background. Suddenly it starts trending on Twitter because the mainstream media started reporting on it. But when it was just the gathering, people talking, there was absolutely no coverage on it, and you pointed it out. And I think that is why people are starting not only to distrust the media more and more, but also starting to realize that the media are complicit in convincing a lot of these people that make these excuses that there isn't a problem. I do think a lot of these people have been bamboozled by the media, and they do believe that it's all lies and propaganda. I don't think every person that makes excuses for farm murders is thinking at the back of their mind, oh, I just want to see these Boers get their just desserts one day. I think a lot of them have been completely misled by the media, and they think them spreading all these lies and propaganda and making these excuses is actually a righteous cause. Yeah. And it's sad to see. But then at the same time, my final thought there is that it's just so encouraging to see a lot of people covering this issue objectively and looking at it and giving it a different angle and looking at it from a different perspective. And this is your channel, Ronaldo's channel, Roman's channel, Germ's channel, my own channel. This is getting out there and people are realizing it. And it's very encouraging to see.
Speaking of your channel, just below the video in the description, you can find a link to the Conscious Caracal. That's Ernst van Zyl. That's the gentleman just below me on the screen. So I'm going to read something here. And folks, keep on coming into the channel. Really appreciate coming to the stream. Important topic today. We're pushing 400 current viewers. If you guys get me up to 500, you'll beat Steve Hofmeyer on my channel. So feel free to do that. That would be interesting. I'm going to cover my face up. I'm going to read this. You can see it on the screen there, but this is some vile piece of slime 3 days ago. His name is Andile, and I can't pronounce that last name, or something like that.
Ama.
Okay. Well, so I'm not Kosa or San, so I have a hard time with that one. I salute you. Most of you showed me you aren't morons. So I put up a picture of 21 years old land thief, who was recently murdered. 99.9% of the comments of these were memes nature. His English isn't very good. Someone even said they were eating chocolate. Maybe I will die a happy man with the knowledge that many of us are getting it, that this is war, ! Of course, I'll be happier if we launch a full-scale revolutionary war to get our stuff back. Only a people who don't take their oppression seriously have tears for the oppressor. Let them give back the land, and they shall know peace. So long as they are holding on to our land, bad things shall happen to them. Well, number one, this is a violation of South African law, and clearly that's not a Zimbabwean. So I would like to see SAP's open case, but that's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. Number two, this gentleman's a moron. He doesn't know history. And he's got his head up his fourth point of contact, also known as your rectum. So he's a dangerous thug. It looks in the photograph like he's picking his nose. I just thought I'd point that out, by the way. Anyway, but Ernst, thoughts, comments? That is a pervasive narrative amongst under 30 South Africans because it's been perpetuated by idiots like Julius Malema, Floyd Shivambu, and also members of the ANC themselves.
So Andile, for maybe your foreign listeners that don't have the context, he is the leader of the Black First, Land First party in South Africa. And I mean, in the American media, they always talk about white supremacy and whatever, but this is an icon, and I don't throw this term around a lot because I think it's been completely worn out, but this is a blatantly black supremacist organization or party. If you look at their rhetoric, I mean, there's a video on my channel. You can see it. It's the most viewed video on my channal where Andile, this guy that you're talking about right here,
thug,
said that, said that people need to go out and kill farmers. They need to, I can't remember for what it was. It was for taxi violence or something like that. My memory is not that good in regards to what this was in response to. But he said, in retaliation, we need to kill one white person for every black person that's killed in this country or something like that. And he said we need to kill their women, their children, their dogs, and their cats.
Yeah.
And
he's not in prison.
Horrendous.
Never even went to jail for this.
No. And also his party also sing that song, One Settler, One Bullet.
Yeah.
Which we saw a variant of earlier this year when Soleimani was killed and outside the American embassy, when the ANC and the South African Communist Party sang One American, One Bullet. So a very popular mantra in South Africa.
Bring it.
I just see these South African communists as like a little tiny gnat on your shoulder, and America doesn't even notice, and it's screaming in your ear like, we're gonna come for you, we're gonna get you. And America can just look over its shoulder and blow a little bit, and then they fly into the stratosphere.
No, but the reason I mentioned Andile, other than the fact that he's a complete ass, is the fact that sorry for the profanity, but other than that, is that this is dangerous language, inciting people to violence and terror, and it not being disciplined and not being called. And look, by contrast, we see now this doesn't excuse the behavior, but we know the case of Vicky Momberg and Penny Sparrow, right? Penny Sparrow did a thing on Twitter, and her life was destroyed as a consequence of it. She committed no crime; she just did something in bad taste. Which was, people found offensive. Okay.
Vicky Momberg was imprisoned.
Well, that's where I'm headed. Vicky Momberg, and let's put this in context. She was assaulted and nearly robbed, carjacked, and she was in shock when the police finally arrived. She was still in shock, and she was angry. And so she was disrespectful. She was rude to a black policeman. Okay, got it. All right, fine. Make her apologize. You want to fine her for disrespect. But she was convicted as a felon and put in prison. Her life destroyed over words. And this clown can incite people to violence. Malema can incite people to violence, and people get killed. Brendan is dead.
I see one of your moderators, where is it now? Henk Klopper is spamming my channel in the chat. Very, very thank you very much. I see here Sasa also says, isn't Andile the one who managed to collect a whole 3,000 votes? I can't remember.
It was
exactly
very few, very few. It was very low.
Tiny. Yeah.
I think it might have been like 3,100. It was ridiculously low.
Yeah. No, it's also tiny. But yeah, but that's the thing, is that and I think this is the angle that people need to keep in mind, is that you get this type of rhetoric. I don't care about how many votes they get in the election. I care about how these parties are covered and the type of reaction we get to them. You get a white South African saying something racist but not inciting violence, and it trends on Twitter. It becomes a national story. You almost, in some cases, you get high-profile politicians talking about it, and then you get these types of oaks that don't just say something racist. They openly call for violence and for the extermination of an entire group of people, and then you get the commentary from, but you have to understand the anger, and you have to understand
you don't.
It's that classic the soft bigotry of lowered expectations, where a lot of these commentariat treat these types of these black politicians as like children. They treat them like children, like, but they can't control what they're saying. Their emotions get the better of them. We need to give them leeway. We need to give them a little bit of more understanding. I'm like, no, they are grown adults. Their brain has been fully developed. They know exactly what they're saying. They know exactly what they're doing, and they need to be treated like adults. Stop treating them like children. Stop with your bigotry of lowered expectations. Start treating them like regular people, and then you'll get some true perspective on what's going on. And this was one of the key messages today as well, as there was and this needs to be acknowledged, there was a lot of anger today. Emotions were very high today, and some of the comments that I heard there was that our cause is not getting any national attention. The people that have the power to actually influence legislation to help these farmers aren't doing it, and they are lying about it, and they are blatantly ignoring it. I mean, Bekechele, the Minister of Police, said, no, farm murders are not a priority crime. We're not going to prioritize it. And 2 years ago in 2018, the president of South Africa said, no white farmers are being murdered in South Africa. And then you also get these types of excuses where people say, but it's normal crime. South Africa is a high crime country. These were cattle thieves, and it's just a violent crime. But then you have to ask the question, have we really lowered the bar so low that criminals in our country can hang a 21-year-old? I mean, what shocks me the most about this is that he's even younger than me. This could be my friend. This could be my cousin. This could be my little brother. How can we get to this point where we've lowered the bar so low that we're making excuses for criminals that hang a 21-year-old man on a pole? The evidence from the crime scene shows that, I can't remember exactly, I don't want to give misinformation on your channel, but there was damage to his hands. I don't know if his hand was broken, but there was definite evidence that he fought back. He fought back so hard that he broke his hand, if I remember correctly. I'm speaking under correction. And they left the knife that they stabbed him with on his hat to clearly send a message. And then my question then is this normal crime? Have we gotten to this point where we are justifying this type of horrendous action as normal crime?
This
and
is
if you are,
terrorism.
if you call this normal crime, then you pretty much have to call ISIS beheading people normal crimes.
Exactly right. You've hit it spot on. Let me do a little bit of housekeeping here real quick, Ernst, and then we'll get back to this conversation. We'll switch back to the events, and I've got some comments about that, and I want your feedback on it. So first off, folks, you were listening to Chris White Africa on the Indaba Africa channel. No, that's not a mistake. We didn't find that word in a bin. We actually picked it on purpose because it means something, and those in South Africa know what Indaba means. Anyway, so welcome to Chris White Africa. If you're just tuning in, or first-time viewer, it's a pleasure having you here. Keep pushing it, folks. We're on at 448. We need another 50 to beat Steve Hofmeier's appearance on the channel. And then I can get Steve back on, because I'll have to tell him he has to one-up it. But unfortunately, we're talking about a topic it's quite sad here. But let me get to a couple comments in the chat that I want to get to. Let's see. Bongani and Guenia gave a super chat, and he said, well, not all people under 30 are that bad. No, they're not. Bongani, almost no people under 30 are jackasses and like this. It's a very small number of people that are responsible for this, but it's a larger group of people who are brainwashed because they haven't learned critical thinking skills and they can't think for themselves. They are spoon-fed nonsense. And that's from all groups. It's not any particular ethnic group. And that's all over the world, by the way. Look in my country. Look at the nonsense happening in city streets in this country. Melody said, Chris, the BLF guy, Black Land First, Penny Sparrow, and Vicky Momberg are all filthy racist, as simple as that. Well, I wouldn't say it's as simple as that, Melody, because the Black Lives First guy has never been convicted of a crime. And his crime is far more heinous than Vicky Momberg, a woman who had psychological issues as she suffered trauma. Anyone that's ever dealt with someone that's in trauma knows that you can't be held responsible for some of your actions in the midst of that. Now, whether she's a racist or not isn't germane. The fact that she was punished and Penny Sparrow's life was destroyed and she was hounded, but the BLF guy is still running around inciting violence, shows it's not the same, Melody. So I disagree with your point there. But your point is that they're all racist. Okay, I'll accept your point there, but basically they're not the same. One other thing here before we get back to it, and that's Erica said earlier on exactly what I put in the title of my video, but she did it in Afrikaans. I did it in English. I said enough is enough. Did I get that right? Close.
Yeah, that's very good.
All right, so yeah, enough is enough, and I think that we're all beyond full with this. We've had our fill, and I'm not even South African. So, Aaron, so let's get back to the videos, and not the videos, but you were actually there, so you're an eyewitness. The videos I watched. Now, of course, to be fair, folks, as I said in my video when I did breaking news reporting and I did an analysis afterwards, video footage is very suspect. Remember the video of the Covington kids in which they were taunting an American Indian? Remember all that brouhaha? It was all lies. Remember that? So you have to be careful with video footage. But I have spent a lot of my years analyzing drone footage and other footage and things like that. So not like I'm walking to this cold. But what I saw were the following. I saw from the South African Police Service, SAPS, ill discipline, rash behavior, dangerous conduct, and a cowardly retreat. Now, maybe you can help tell me if I missed something like that, but let me give you a couple examples. I did see one of the, it's Inyala is the name of the armored vehicle, I think. That's what they call them, Inyala. One of the Inyalas from SAPS was on the street, and it was blocking the street at an angle. Someone was driving safely down the street and was going to overtake them. South African English, overtake them. Going to overtake them instead of pass them. And that vehicle started backing up. No ground guides on the ground. There was nothing happening around them. All of the commotion was away from this Nyala. And the driver hit the horn and warned the vehicle. It stopped. You could see it shudder like this. And then I have no idea why, but the SAPS officer, about a minute later, he's looking around the cupola and he pulls a flashbang grenade and throws it at the crowd of people just standing around who weren't even in the street and put their lives in danger. That's one example.
He drives away.
And then they drove away fast, like they were escaping, like cowards. That was ill-disciplined and rash behavior. As I understand it, one of the Nyalas drove into the courthouse. I guess the guy lost control, or he's an idiot. But their conduct was reprehensible. I mean, seriously, a little evaluation here. If I were in charge of security for this and I was the police, I know lots of people are going to show up for this. There's no doubt about it. So what I would have done is I would have had concentric circles of security, and I would have had police stationed in multiple locations so that they could react to this as it unfolded. But now, Ernst, you were there. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't see everything. But the behavior I saw in multiple videos is people standing around, most of them using their mobile phones to take pictures and videos, and nobody toying, nobody waving assegis, nobody waving knob carries, nobody burning tires, nobody digging up the streets, nobody throwing stones at the police or anyone else. All relatively calm, even in the midst of these cops driving down the street. It looked like they're going 30 or 40 kilometers an hour in a small city street, putting lives in jeopardy. The only thing I will say that we did see people react is when they drove into the building, there were people trying to flip over the vehicle, and then one of the police vehicles got flipped over later on. But have I missed something? I wasn't there, so let me know.
So firstly, I wasn't in the thick of it. I was actually still at the So the courthouse is about 500 or 600 meters from where the gathering was. And people had started moving that direction. I was still chatting there to a lot of people that wanted to talk to me and talk about what my thoughts are on the day. And I was doing some interviews as well, a video I will be releasing on my channel tomorrow. But then we heard screams from that side. And I think that's when Inyala was driving into the courthouse, or when the gunshots went off. So there were people that went into the court itself to try and find the suspects, and then there were 2 shots fired from the police, as I understand it, inside, I think against the wall, into the roof or something like that. And then when we heard that, we moved closer, and then that's when I saw the retreat, as you said it, where the Inyalas were moving away. My suspicion is that they went back to get their riot gear. I think they actually retreated to get their gear to come back, which seemed to be the case when they got back. But when they came back with such a speed. I was talking to a guy in the road, and this Inyala comes driving down at a malicious speed down the road. And I had to pull this guy from the street, or else he would have been hit. So I had to do it very strongly. So I actually apologized to him afterwards, because he ended up on his knees. But better that than getting hit by an armored vehicle. But anyway, so that's what I saw, and then we started moving closer. But at the same time, I wasn't there when the truck was flipped. I wasn't there when the people entered the courthouse. So I can't give you the timeline on what happened there. Sure. But excuse me, I don't have the corona. So what happened then was, after the gunshots, there were flash grenades thrown as well. So that was some of the sounds that people also mistook for more gunshots. But we can confirm that there were 2 gunshots from the police. But there were also 2 or 3 flashbangs that were thrown that I heard when I moved closer. And then things started escalating very quickly. I think after those gunshots from the police inside, that's when things started to escalate. And then people prevented the Inyalas from getting into the courthouse. People wanted the suspects. They wanted justice. And I think the clear thing to put out there, and for people to understand, is that this is not the type of behavior that AfriForum condones or endorses or encourages. But it is a symptom of something bigger. I think what people saw today there was that there's a lot of anger. There's a lot of people that feel very strongly about this, that feel that things have gone too far and that their voices aren't being heard. And that's why I'm so glad that there are channels like yours where we can actually get some of this out there. And actually, and I think I don't think I'm exaggerating when I say this, but these types of conversations help diffuse the situation, keep people calm, to realize that there are people talking about it. There's an increasing amount of people talking about it, and they don't have to rely on the mainstream media to get the message out anymore. We know that they're not going to get the true story out there, so more and more people are moving to the alternative media to get the story in terms of what happened. And more often than not, that story is a lot more objective and honest than the mainstream accredited trademark story. So for me, the big takeaway from today in regards to that second half of the day was definitely the fact that firstly, the police, they were horribly underprepared. The type of conduct I saw there was bizarre. The tactics were nonsensical. And I mean, I don't even have a military or police background, but even me could see there's something wrong there. Yeah. I mean, that video clip is pretty damning and this was early on when the Inyala armored vehicle came there, threw the flash grenade and drove off. I mean, this was at the beginning, as I understand it. I wasn't there at that time, but as I've try to unravel the timeline for that gap where I wasn't there, it seems that this was very early on, and this actually riled up a lot of people that they saw that there's an unfair aggression towards them. At the end of the day, we ended up with a police van that got tipped over on its side and set alight. Don't know who did it, didn't see it happen, can't give you any clarity there. But at the same time, this is what the mainstream media are focusing on. They're talking about people attacking the police station. They're framing it as if this was the intention all along. This was the whole event. Well, in actuality, this is at most 5% or 7%, if you want to be very liberal, of the day. This is a very tiny altercation that happened at the end of the day. The rest of the day in the bigger picture was very productive, very civil, very well behaved and organized. And it's just very revealing to me to see what the different groups that are reporting on it are focusing on. Nobody is focusing on the speeches. Nobody is focusing on the prayer. Nobody is focusing on the fact that everyone got together and sang a hymn. Nobody is focusing on the fact that, and I'm talking about I'm talking about the mainstream sources, are focusing on the fact that thousands of people knelt on their knees to show that we kneel only before God and not before anything else. Those powerful images and those peaceful images are not being broadcast to the world by the mainstream media. They're only focusing on the tiny altercation at the end, in the bigger picture that doesn't even register on the radar if you take the entire timeline into account.
No, absolutely. Just a couple things real quick. John Jarvis, we can see your comments today. Apparently, for some reason, some of John's comments weren't showing up the other day, and we weren't blocking him. Some weird things happening at YouTube. I was asked a question about Neil de Beer. My point about Neil de Beer, I really talked to him, but if it took you this long to wake up to what's happening in the ANC, then you're part of the problem. And I would question the bona fides and the sincerity of someone who suddenly today goes, oh, the ANC got it wrong. You should have caught on to this after the Zuma government started at the latest. Not today in 2020. It's a bit late. So I would question the motivations and bona fides, something like that. That to me seems like a rat that's leaving the ship as it's starting to list. That's just my thoughts on that one. I don't know much about, well, I do know about Neil de Beer. I don't want to really talk about, but just to answer that quick question. So, okay, so that's you weren't right in the thick of it, but you certainly saw some of the stuff, and you kind of verified my point there. The Nyalas were driving at a dangerous rate of speed down a small street.
I had to yank a guy out of their way.
Yeah, that's insane. And the flashbangs, to what end? The ones over by the courthouse, one might excuse in the heat of battle, the thick of things, cops under pressure, maybe. I don't know. I'm not trying to make excuses for them. But the cop tossing a flashbang out of the back of his vehicle into a crowd of people just standing around who aren't even approaching him, they're facing the other direction, is clearly a cowardly act, and it deserves discipline. But listen, this isn't new. This is SAPS when it responds to things like this. Maracana wasn't an isolated incident. It's just that the world saw it.
No, absolutely. And that's why I'm saying, and I can't emphasize this enough, this is why channels like yours and alternative media is so important. I mean, if these types of news sources didn't exist, you'd have to rely on the mainstream angle, and you would be fooled into thinking that the entire event today was just a riot to burn down the courthouse, or whatever type of angle they're going with now. I don't even know. So for me, this is very important that people are getting the truth out, people are getting the message out, and social media is playing a very large role. Where in the past, I mean, even with Marikana at that time, social media was not as extensive as it is now today.
Right.
People are getting their stories straight, and it's not the fact that there's chaos, that people don't know what's going on. People are slowly putting together the timeline. And the timeline favors the alternative sources and not the mainstream sources, which I think is very revealing. I think if you look at the pictures and the video from today, I mean, I was there. I woke up at 3 a.m. this morning, and then we drove 4 hours. I was there from 9 a.m. until about 1 in the afternoon.
Yep.
And if your takeaway from the pictures and video that came out of that 4 or 5 hour span is that it was just a riot, and it was just the intention was to destroy property and to be for civil disobedience, then you're drinking the mainstream Kool-Aid. Then I don't think you're being objective. You need to look at the full picture. You need to look at what was actually happening there. I think a lot of the speeches will be online very soon. I think a lot of them are already. Try and go find them. Try and go listen to them. You'll get a very new perspective on it, especially the sermons that the pastors did. I think were very excellent. I think the messages there were absolutely perfectly thought out, and a lot of thought put in there. And if you look at the pictures, like I said earlier, it's not a gathering of radicals. It's not a gathering of fringe individuals. You saw their mothers and fathers, old people, young people. There's a beautiful picture that I put on my Twitter about of a father and his young son standing there looking very solemn. And that's what today was about, was to show solidarity. It was to give support to the family, but also to send a very strong message that this is enough is enough. And I mean, that was one of the big messages on the placards today, was that this is until here and no further. And I think we're going to see a lot more of this type of action going forward.
No, absolutely. It's absolutely. I knew the media was going to lie about it, and that's the reason I did the breaking news story. I wanted it because I went and looked. I said, well, let me see what they're reporting. I mean, I didn't have any plan to do a live stream of this, although that was an interesting idea. I figured, let me just let it play out and see what happens, because I didn't want to go, hey, look, everybody's going to be in Senekal, and then 100 people show up. I didn't want to disappoint people. So I waited, and then I went and checked out the news, and nothing at all. International and domestic, just a couple things. So I said, that's it. I need to get a story based on what facts I have and point out that, information's fluid. We could get something wrong, but let's get it on the record here. And I did. By the way, folks, thanks for tuning in and watching. That video has just peaked over 25,000 from just a few hours ago. That is by far and away the fastest video on my channel has ever risen. So thank you for that, and all the comments and the likes for it. And for the dislikes, thank you to the haters. Appreciate you disliking the video. That always helps viewership too, whether you realize it or not. But yeah, it's really helpful. So we just to give people an update here, we hit 548 people concurrently watching. So we beat Steve Hofmeyer. So I'm going to have to talk to Steve and get him back on the channel, because he's been outdone by Ernst von Seil. He can't. I'm sure he can't live with that. He's a big guy. But yeah, so let's get back to the topic at hand here. The vehicle, I'm seeing people saying some things here now, and I don't know because I wasn't there. And it was apparently that was after lunch when the vehicle was tipped over, and no one lit it on fire. The engine must have been running. It caught on fire is what people were saying, and people went to put it out. I don't know. Whatever the case is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the media is going to spin it as something that it's not. And so you've just got to be prepared to deal with that, and that's an important thing. But back to the police. Again, Ernst, I mean, what kind of organization is this? I know the answer. You don't have to answer. It's rhetorical. I mean, as a military guy, you have a plan. There was no plan here. And if they had a plan, it was pathetic. They didn't really, I mean, how could they not expect that people weren't going to show up after they heard about this and what was going on with the arraignment of these guys? By the way, were those two suspects at the front of that group moving into the building when the police, were they up there with them? Is that, because it was hard to see. I never could see the faces from the video I saw.
No, they appeared in court, but I don't know when they were moved. I don't think they were still in the courthouse when the protesters entered the courthouse. I think they were moved then. But yeah, at the court case has now been postponed to 16 October. So that's in the bigger picture just around the corner. So we're going to have to see what happens then.
Well, maybe on the 16th, if I can, I'll do live coverage of it, because obviously something's going to happen then. It's crazy. Melody says, was anyone killed? No, nobody was killed. Not that I'm aware of. Nobody was even wounded or shot or anything like that. Although someone did say that the cop who fired the gun, I can't confirm this. This is someone saying in the chat. The cop that fired the gun was disarmed. He got a hiding from the crowd. I don't know if that's true, but I can
can't confirm that, unfortunately.
Yeah, can't confirm that either. That's the first I heard of that, but that's in the chat, so you never know. Folks, most people in the chat are behaving themselves. A couple of you are being little asses. Knock it off, or my moderators will take you out. 2 people have been given a timeout already. If you want to contribute to the conversation, you're welcome to. If you disagree with the topic at hand, you're welcome to disagree. Feel free to share your thoughts, but keep it civil, and thank you for the chat. So, Ernst, what are your takeaways from today? Remember I said, is this a catalyst? Is this where we're going to go from somewhere? What do you think we're going to see from this today?
Well, I think in Afrikaans, it's such a nice way to say it because there's a little bit of wordplay there, but in English, it doesn't translate as well. So in Afrikaans, we say, I will start mark op die staat. So stop relying on the state. And I think that was one of the big messages from Ernst Roots in his speech today as well. I will let you know if Ernst Roots' speech is uploaded on YouTube. I don't think it is yet, but it will be tomorrow, I'm sure. And one of the key takeaways there was, and I think he said it in the video that where I did a little bit of an interview on my Twitter with him as well. He said that politicians aren't going to solve this problem. I mean, we're going to welcome if politicians talk about it. If it's part of the national dialogue, I'm not going to shun that and say, no, but you can just shut up. But at the same time, the real solutions, I am absolutely sure, will come from the community and people organizing, people getting their legal firearm licenses, knowing how to use it responsibly. And I mean, I can't emphasize that enough. Know how to use your weapon. Don't just go gung-ho, cowboy. You're not in the Wild West. Know what you're doing. Know your weapon like the back of your hand. And if you're still procrastinating, if you're South African and you're still procrastinating getting your firearm license, do it tomorrow, do it the next day. It's going to take a while, yes, but there are a lot of people out there like Paratus, for example, that goes on Roman's channel often, that you can contact, and you can also go to firearmsza.co.za to get in contact with people that can help you ease that process. So stop procrastinating getting your firearm license. Me and my girlfriend are going to get it first thing next year. This year has been a bit busy and chaotic, but we've made a commitment that next year we're going to get our firearm licenses as well. And I think that was one of the messages today. A lot of people today in their speeches say, get to know your neighbor, get to know your community, know how, join a neighborhood watch, join a farm patrol. Join the safety structures that are already there and start making them better, build them, make them stronger and more efficient, and that's possible. And that's the takeaway from today for me. Not that we're going to rely on politicians. We're going to pressure politicians that they need to prioritize this crime because it will bring a lot of attention to it and will divert resources to helping solve it. But at the end of the day, the big change is going to come from grassroots. It's going to come from communities, people getting together and organizing. And a lot of organizations are already doing it. My organization, Africa Forum, is at the pinnacle, or at the leading the charge in that regard, in my opinion. So for me, definitely that was the big takeaway, not the fact that we're going to rely on Cyril Ramaphosa to solve our problems or to come on a white horse and come save us, but rather that we're going to start organizing ourselves. And as we say in Afrikaans, to self-do, to do it ourselves, to roll up our sleeves. But yeah, and then the other takeaway from today for me was definitely the bigger picture, not in that the message that we got from a lot of the speeches today was not that we just gathered here as a bunch of humans, as a bunch of people, but as Christians, as people that believe that God will help us in this fight, that we are definitely not just in floating in nihilism on some planet around the sun, but that there's a bigger picture, that there is a force that is helping us and that is on our side, that is on the side of righteousness. And I mean, you can see that in the imagery of the thousands of people there kneeling in unison for prayer. And I think that was very powerful. That moved me specifically. And maybe my final thought on that question would be definitely that, yes, there are a lot of people excusing farm murders. There are a lot of scum out there that take pleasure in seeing farmers murdered and seeing young men like Brendan being murdered. But there are also a lot of people from all backgrounds that understand the level of the crisis, that can put their politics aside and realize and empathize with the people suffering. For me, it's easy because I come from a farming community. I grew up in a small farming town. So this hits very close to home, this issue. And that's why I think I was set on this path to fight, to bring awareness to this issue and to try and solve it. But a lot of people without farming backgrounds that come from the city, people from other cultures that aren't Boers or Afrikaners, also I've seen today empathize with our cause. There was a pastor or a reverend on Twitter a few days ago that also said that this needs to end now, and that this is an issue we can all rally behind. And that was very heartwarming. For me, it was that's what I like to see, and I saw a lot of that today.
No, I think it's a great comment, and I think you've touched on a few things. You mentioned speeches being given in Setswana. Oh, sorry, Tswana in South Africa, but Setswana for me in Botswana. But you know the deal there. But being given in Tswana and English and Afrikaans, and also Black South Africans present, other South Africans present. I think that that's encouraging, and that's one of the points I've been making. Renee Kruger had to disagree with me, and I know Willem Petra had to disagree with me when I talked about rural insecurity, and I still talk about rural insecurity. But I just made a point to them, again, to Renee, and we agreed on it. But the point is that I never dismissed that this wasn't domestic terrorism meant to terrorize people off the land. That is true. But the bigger point here is that there is a broader community that's affected. Every white commercial farmer that's driven out of business means people lose jobs from all over South Africa. Every time this happens, we're all dehumanized a bit. It affects all of us, regardless of our ethnicity, or race, or language, and that there is a bigger team here than just the Boers and just the Afrikaners who are under siege. Coloreds, blacks, Indians, also part of it. We talked about the 26-year-old, 4-month pregnant Indian woman who was murdered on a farm near Veenen. This affects everybody. Yes, but there clearly is a domestic terrorist effort going on here to drive white South Africans off the land. But working with others who have similar concerns and share this. I think that's encouraging that we saw that, and that hopefully is the future.
Yeah, and you can see it. I mean, you mentioned there that this is about the farming community. I mean, this is pretty clear. Our hashtag is not White Lives Matter. Our hashtag is Farm Murders, Farm Terror. This is about farmers in South Africa. And yes, there is definitely a disproportionate amount of farmers that are Afrikaans and white. I mean, you can't deny that fact.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that this is a cause just we only care because it's white people being killed. Far from it. This is a cause where these are the people that are putting bread on South Africans' tables. These are the people keeping our nation alive and fed. And I mean, you understand it, Chris, but for me, it's coming from a farm community. You need to realize the amount of people employed by farmers, the amount of people depending on farmers. If all the South African farmers were to disappear tomorrow, South Africa wouldn't exist within a week. The country would be dead. And I mean, almost in the literal sense, people would be killing each other for food or starving at the same time within a few weeks. And we would be reliant completely on international aid. I mean, just ask Zimbabwe for some tips on how that worked out for them. So yeah, for me, it's that's one of the big takeaways for me as well, is that this was not a racialist movement. This wasn't a movement that was based on only because white people are being killed, that's why we care. Absolutely far from it. This is an attack on our farming community. This is an attack on our farmers. This is a threat to our food security and to our farming communities that are the lifeblood, not only of their families and of the country for food, but also as employers and valuable members of their communities, and for specifically family farmers in small towns. That's why I was glad to see Theo de Jager of SAI, the South African Family Farmers Association, there as well. He also did a very good speech and highlighted that fact that family farmers are the lifeblood of this country. They are the people keeping their communities together, specifically farming communities. And then you see this type of hateful rhetoric towards farmers, telling people that they stole the land and killed the boer and whatever. I mean, I can go on and on. And it just, it's pure evil, Chris. You see, it's not coming from a devil's advocate position. It's not coming from, we can debate about it. No, this is not a debate. This is about your ideology is an ideology of resentment. You are not compassionate. You're not doing this because you care about the truth or you care about justice. Or I mean, I can list all these buzzwords. Yep. You do exactly the opposite. You do this, and I'm talking to the people spreading this propaganda. They're doing this because they are possessed by ideology, and not just any ideology, an ideology of hate and resentment and revenge.
Well, that's a great phrase, and I'm going to use that, and I'll give you credit for it.
Anytime.
Possessed by ideology, because just change the ocean, swim to this side, or you'll have to swim because there's no South African Airways flights coming this way. But maybe you can fly a United flight out of Cape Town if you can get down there. But possessed by ideology is exactly what's happening on this side. A complete cognitive dissonance for critical thinking, for facts, for objective reasoning. All emotive, all really sad. It really is unfortunate. Listen, Ernst, you look like you've been fried in the sun, just like I did when I came back from Wyoming. It's been a long day. You've been driving a lot. I'd love to keep you on for hours and hours, but that would be very unfair of me. You also had 2 radio appearances today, so we can go longer if you like, but I want you to get some rest if you need it. So
we can chat for another 15 minutes, Chris. I've got time.
All right, that's cool. I don't want to chase you off the air because it's a great conversation. We got a good audience right now, but I also didn't want to. Now, there was a very good question from Paula Kernan a few minutes ago. She was asking, because I haven't seen this anywhere, when is Brendan's funeral? Does anyone know? Because I would hope that there's a big turnout.
Yeah, Chris, I would love to tell you, but unfortunately, I don't know. I don't know if it's been made official yet. But I think a lot of people will be attending as soon as that is announced. But yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of action like today in the future. Today set a precedent. I don't think I wouldn't go as far as to say today was a historical moment in regards to the bigger picture, but it is an historical moment technically, but it's not the Rand Rebellion. I wouldn't say it's that type of historical moment, but I do think today is a turning point. Today set a precedent for how we are going to deal with these types of murders in the future and how we're going to react as a community, as a farming community. I think a lot of people took inspiration from today, and that was also one of the key messages that I got from multiple speeches today, was that people said that this is now the precedent. This is how we are going to treat the response to farm murders. We're not just going to forget about it next week, and then next year we're just going to be angry again. We are going to double, triple, quadruple our efforts now to bring awareness and to organize and to really put a dent towards solving this problem.
Well, what I'd love to see is if someone could start some sort of fund or organize sort of some fund, not just in South Africa, but expat South Africans and those concerned around the world, that's focused on raising funds for drones, for mounted patrols, for surveillance, for that sort of stuff to help people in rural South Africa, which is an immense undertaking. But there are hot spots that rotate from time to time, and certainly some effort can be focused on that. Maybe that's a pipe dream, but I would like to see people try to do that and maybe help out some, because I know there are self-defense organizations in some of these communities that respond. For instance, is it Charmaine, the lady, the 44-year-old who's just strangled to death in Delmas? The community responded to that and chased down her vehicle that they stole. And I don't know if you saw the picture of the vehicle flipped over. It's all messed up. But they caught the suspects in that because the community responded. But to get the community to be there to intervene before it's too late, a lot more help and a lot more money is needed for that sort of thing because it costs a lot.
I saw here just out of the corner of my eye, someone asked me there, did he saw Senekal there as well? I don't know off the top of my head now who Senekal I'm talking, who I referenced was Sai. So that's SAAI. I know specifically they were there because Theo de Jager was in the bus with me when we drove there. But a lot of other farming unions were there. I can't remember their names now off the top of my head, and let alone translate them. But there was a big mobilization from the farming community in regards to the farming organizations and the farmers unions. So very, very big ups to them as well. What was also interesting about today was the fact that when I talked to people about their takeaways from the day, I didn't get any nihilism or people being downtrodden. Everyone that I talked to afterwards said that today gave them energy, today gave them hope, today gave them strength. This really inspired them, and that was absolutely what I wanted. If you had asked me this morning, what type of comments would you want to have gotten from people afterwards, those are the ones that I got.
So let me ask you this question too. I mean, if they were there, I didn't see it, but I mean, events like this, you typically see some well-known Afrikaans personalities, people perhaps. Now, he wasn't able to go. I heard from him. We actually talked earlier. Steve Hofmeyer and I talked about this. He was not able to go to this. He was far away in a different location. Danny van der Westhuizen wasn't there as well. He's also a person that's well known for supporting this sort of thing. So my point is that other than Ernst, who many of us around the world have heard of and know Ernst Roots, I didn't see any well-known Afrikaans-speaking South Africans who were present, and yet this was a massive, massive event.
Chris Chameleon, the singer, was there.
Okay.
And then also in the YouTube sphere, Willem Petzer was there. Had a nice chat with him. Also, Don Barnard was there. Had a very nice chat with him as well. But then also, I think today wasn't really an exhibition of like the big star-studded cast of Afrikaner voices, but rather the regular people, normal people being there, right. People coming from small towns in the area. This was, and it wasn't something that was planned in advance. This was very spontaneous. This was almost like one of the most organic movements I've seen. I mean, Black Monday in 2018 was also very organic in the same way, and I got that same energy today. So I think that explains why there wasn't a big presence of, I mean, I don't want to call them celebrities, but notable Afrikaner voices. I think it was not only short notice, but also it's very far. It's 4 hours drive from Pretoria. It's very isolated. So I'm not going to point fingers at anyone and say, why weren't you there?
Oh, no. Do not infer incorrectly. That was not my point. But my point was that this was grassroots. It wasn't anything driven by personalities. It was driven by genuine anger and revulsion and coming together for the community. That's what I was trying to get across. We're not calling anybody out here. No,
I just wanted to make that clear, but that's not how I interpreted your comment either. For me, the thing was definitely the striking amount of just normal people. I mean, something else that struck me when I just first arrived there, walking down the street, was the amount of people that recognized me from Twitter coming over to me and just wanting to chat with me. Very warm, very welcoming. It was very nice to meet everyone. It was very heartwarming, and also gave me a little bit of more strength for the future. But I think that, and to add to my previous, or that's what I mentioned earlier about the strength that people got from today. A lot of people would comment and say, "But man, what does this change, and how does this solve farm murders?" No, it's not going to solve farm murders, but it's a very big statement. It's symbolically immeasurably powerful, today's meeting. And I mean, one of the big criticisms that we get as Afrikaners, was the farming community, but specifically Afrikaners and Boers, is that a lot of people, and even Afrikaners and Boers themselves, have turned this into a mantra. They say, we can't stand together. We always bicker. We always fight. We can't unite, and we can't stand united. And today, I think, really spat in the face of that lie, the fact that we can unite and we can stand together. And I think the next meeting, whenever that is, God forbid that it's a meeting condemning another farm murder, but whenever there's another gathering in the future, I think that truth is going to be out there again. The fact that we can stand together, we can unite around this cause, and we're not just going to be a bunch of individuals, but we're going to unite as a community. And today, as you said, today was a purely grassroots movement. Today was absolutely from the bottom up, not from the top down. Normal people, regular working people, taking off from their jobs and driving hours. I mean, some people 5 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, some people 12 hours to be there. It's absolutely amazing. I mean, it moved me personally just to hear some of the stories. People driving from Cape Town. I mean, that's 11 hours just to be in this town, to show solidarity and to give their support to this family, and to be there in their time of grief. And I think what really drove this was the fact that people felt and knew, and I mean, I tweeted this out earlier this week, that Brendan could have been my brother. Brendan could have been my friend. Brendan could have been my nephew. Brendan could have been a family member, a relative, someone that I knew. And I think everyone today felt exactly the same. And that's why people were willing to drive 12 hours to be there.
The thing that you were mentioning, something about Senekal, what it was, a few people said it's a South African National Civic Organization. I'm not familiar with that one. So that's what they were talking about. Yeah. So, yeah. No. Wow. What can I say? Well, we got something going on the 10th of October. There's a gathering in Lichtenburg or something like that. Maybe that'll. I don't know how big a crowd will show up for that.
I'm not aware of it. I saw a little bit of it, but I don't know about anyone that's involved or any organization.
Yeah, and I don't know much either. I do know that some people are not going to be attending it. But anyway, so that's taking place. And assuming that we get a public announcement of Brendan's funeral, I suspect there'll probably be a big crowd show for that. And I would expect that we'll see a similar sort of situation on the 16th of October. But I would expect that whatever moron is responsible for the police in that district or that area will have an actual plan in place so the police don't overreact and are ill-disciplined like this. So on the 16th of October. But I would expect to see a lot of people there. I also asked, I did see before you go, I did see a video of Brendan's father next to his Bucky. And they were asking questions. He spoke in Afrikaans. And then he made a specific point to switch into English at the end. And they said they took out the wrong guy. They took out the wrong guy. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, Chris, thank you very much for having me on. This was an excellent chat. I mean, I can't believe our chat's already over. If I hadn't been awake since 3 a.m. this morning, we could have gone a lot longer, but we're going to have to chat again in the future. Maybe on my channel next, I'll definitely have you on. We can talk about a bit more about some other issues as well. But thanks again for the work you're doing, giving this coverage. I mean, I saw you today really pushing the issue, trying to get it out there. I mean, I saw that you were very angry about the fact that people weren't covering it, or the mainstream media weren't covering it. I shouldn't say people, because a lot of normal people were covering it on the ground. But it's channels like yours, channels like Romans, like Ronaldo's, like Germs, like mine, that are getting the word out there. And I think that's very important. And if there's anyone listening that have been considering making their own YouTube channel or starting their own page or website or whatever to bring news coverage and analysis, please do it. Just jump in. If it doesn't work, tough luck, move on. It's not going to cost you much. You don't need a fancy microphone. You don't need $10,000 or whatever. Just start doing it. Start putting your voice out there, covering the news, putting your opinion out there. The age of the mainstream media or the legacy media is done. the age of alternative media has just begun. So get in while the gold rush is on, and I would encourage everyone to do it. The more people start covering news, the better. The more alternatives people have, I think everyone can just benefit. So, Chris, thank you again for having me on. Absolute pleasure. And if you ever want to chat again in the future, you can just give me a message.
Yeah, Ernst, touch base with me. Send me a note later before you hit the rack, or tomorrow, or something like that. And I'm ready. I'm ready to come on your channel. We can talk about the Don kicking Rona's butt. He's defeated Corona, so we could talk about that and other things. We got an election coming up here a month from today, a month from today. But before you go, just to say, Lazan said the first thing my colleagues told me when I got to work tonight was, "Did you see the protests? They didn't know white people could stand together, and it's scary." Well, there you go. Anyway, all right. With that, Ernst Funsal, the Conscious Caracal, thank you so much for being my guest on here and your eyewitness report from Senekal today. All right, Ernst, I'll take care. Drop off, and I'm going to go ahead and close out the stream here with a couple comments.
All right, mooi loop, Chris.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Okay, let's get that off here, folks. All right, so there we go. And, oh, he's still there? He's still there, okay. Okay, let's get Ernst off the screen there really quickly. Sorry, folks, a second. Ernst into the waiting room. Okay, there you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Whoa, let's fix that now. We got, all right, what's going on here? There we go. All right, sorry about that, folks. It took me a moment to get adjusted. They're all confused. There was a person who just joined and became a member of the channel. Davi Williamson became a recruit team member. For all members and those who renew their membership, when it comes up in the stream, I always offer a proper hand salute, retired colonel. So, Davi, that's for you. That's a proper hand salute, not a South African one. I'm just teasing about that. Every military has its own hand salute, but that's our hand salute. So I thought I'd share that with you very quickly. So thank you for that, Davi, for becoming a member. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Wow, we broke the bank today for people tuning in. So very quickly, there was a comment here from, let me get this right, Pumduzu Mabirimisa. All right, so Pudzumu, very quickly, you're saying that some people are saying this channel is an English and Afrikaans channel. Is it true? I don't know what you mean is English and Afrikaans channel. I mean, have you not heard me say lots of things in Setswana? I mean, one of the things I say most frequently is Kia Lebo. So you're welcome to speak whatever language you like in here on the channel, in the chat. I won't understand if you speak anything other than Setswana, English, or Afrikaans, and I might not understand all your Setswana or your Afrikaans, but I'll do my best. As long as people are civil, they're welcome to say to speak in whatever language they like. I'm not really sure what's going on there. But anyway, thank you for that. I'm not sure what your comment or question was about, but that was I think, a legitimate question. So hopefully I answered that. Folks, thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate the support for this issue today. And for those of you who tuned in to watch my video, all I can say is, wow, quel bon. There you go. There's another language. Vielen Dank. Merci mille fois. Bye donkey. My video that I produced this morning, the breaking news video about this developing situation in Senekal in the Northern Free State, has really broke the bank as well today. Now, 26,245 views, folks. That's 6 hours old. That is unbelievable. Thank you so much for that. People are really tuning in and watching that. There were 213 who watched it as I premiered it this morning. It's just absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for watching the video, and thank you for this. If you're new to the channel, folks, I'm Chris Wyatt. I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel with 36.5 years service in the U.S. Army, and 34 of that is active duty. The other 2.5 were in the reserve component, serving the Ohio National Guard and just the reserves for the other part of that. I've served 3 tours in Germany during the Cold War, after the Cold War, both as a private sergeant, then also as a lieutenant captain, then finally as a lieutenant colonel at the U.S. Africa Command. I also have served in Italy for a tour, served in combat in Iraq, of course, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, in the Balkans, and other places which I can't discuss because some things are still protected, as well as having served tours in Africa, tours of duty in Tunisia, Liberia, Botswana, Malawi, Niger, Mauritania, Uganda, and Ethiopia. I've worked HIV, Ebola, tuberculosis, malaria programs all over the continent, built schools, clinics, dug wells, have run counterterrorism programs, have trained peacekeepers, have also done professional military development, teaching civil rule over the military, and many other things. Worked with contractors, non-governmental organizations, peacekeepers, United Nations, you take your pick. I've been fortunate to be involved in quite a bit of things. So I bring all of that to my analysis and my commentary here on the channel. It's not just some old white oak who just decided to start making videos about South Africa. I actually have walked the walk and talked the talk and been on the ground. I've served in embassies. I've served at the Pentagon. I've served the National Security Agency, at the Defense Intelligence Agency. And my final assignment was in the active duty was the U.S. Army War College, where I was Director of African Studies for the last 4 years of my career. And I wrapped up my career in October of last year. So it's just been 1 year since I retired. So for those of you who are new to the channel and unfamiliar with me, that tells you a little bit about me. I'm a published author, both an academic, and I have a forthcoming book from Stellenbosch University in which I have the key chapter talking about the evolution, the genesis, and an assessment of the U.S. Africa Command. That'll be coming out from Stellenbosch in January of 2021, but it's an academic book, so it's $175. Probably not many people are going to buy it. Also published previously by the U.S. Army War College and other academic journals, and I am a published commercial author as well for defense magazines in South Africa and other places, as well as a journalist covering rugby. I did 12 stories from the Rugby World Cup in Japan last year, mostly human interest and background on Japan. But that's a little bit about me, folks. In case you're curious, who's this oak you're listening to and you don't know, Drian just gave a super chat, and it says it blows my mind every time Chris tells his resume. And Drian, I'm being modest. There's so much more there, so much more that I don't even go into because people start saying, "Oh, the guy's making it up." Not making it up. Look me up on LinkedIn, folks. I'm a real person. You can find it. And anyway, so there you go. Thank you so much for tuning in. My many thanks to the conscious Caracal, who's had a long day. I know I've driven from Pretoria down to the Drakensberg, which isn't too far from where he went today, and it's a bit of a hike. It's not a 5-minute drive. It can take it out of you, particularly in the summertime, springtime, the heat beating down on you. It can be a tough ride, even if you have aircon in your vehicle. And then he's down and back. He gave 2 interviews on the radio today, plus he was there. All that saps energy out of you. So thank you so much, Ernst. You are a great guest. We'll get Ernst Rutz on the channel sometime soon, but thank you all so much for that. And really appreciate the support from the audience there today. Thank you all. Now, the quick question for my regular audience is I need to ask this question. Do you want a night owl stream for Stray Voltage? Do you want a Stray Voltage stream tonight? If I get enough yeses, I'll go ahead and set one up, and we'll do it at quarter after. That'll be 23:15, so it'll be about in 25 minutes if you want it. If you guys want a Night Owls edition, say you'll be here, you'd like to see it, and I'll come back and do it, and we'll touch base. Jus Jans is back, 3 hours drive from Pretoria to Senekal. Yeah, well, 3 hours down, 3 hours back, standing in the sun, participating in all these events. All right, people want to hear it. Okay, so if you're still here, about 400 people, and you want to tune in for the Night Owls edition, please tune in for that. I'll talk about Donald Trump. I'll talk about this event today, and I'll also talk about any questions you might have, answer your questions about me and about what's going on around the world. Happy to do that. All right, so get lots of yeses. I'm going to be back, and set your clocks now, folks. That'll be in about 23 minutes. Is that about right? Yeah, about 23 minutes. A quarter after the hour, I'll set up a Stray Voltage Night Owls edition, and we'll talk about today's events. All right, folks, that's enough of this for now. Thank you so much. God bless you. By the way, those of you here, Bongani, good to see you there. You set the record on Chris Wine Africa. This is the biggest audience we've ever had, concurrent number of viewers. I saw 568. I'll check and see if that was the peak, and I'll let you know. You beat Steve Hofmeyer. Now, I have a much bigger audience than when I had Steve Hofmeyer, but still, it's impressive. But thank you all so much for that. Yuri Hanna says, enjoyed your content tonight. Well, thank you so much for that. Folks, those of you who got timed out, you should know why you got timed out. And thank you to the moderators for their volunteering and for their time, making sure people are behaving in the chat. Anyway, so if you come in my chat and you whine about things all the time, then you're just distracting. You're not contributing to the conversation. That's why you got in trouble. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of this stream. I'll be back on in less than half an hour. God bless and thank you. And well done today to all the folks who were in Senekal. To show up, to be present. I'm not talking about flipping a vehicle over. I'm talking about being present. That's what matters. Have a good evening. And if you're going to be back, I'll see you shortly. God bless. Kia leboa for your viewership and support. Whoops, that should be off. Sorry about that, folks. Why did Logitech? Okay, I'm in the wrong window. Too busy here. Here we go.